Hi, this is part 2 of the previous tutorial on the Mica Mash cane, but really it's a tutorial on how to put together a basic 3-disc necklace using Sari Ribbon. And I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but this is the way I like to do it, so that's what I'm going to show you today. So here's an example of a 3-disc necklace, and they're curved beads done on the soda pop can support, and done with Sari Ribbon and the Mica Mash cane. And I've just done the wire wrap ending on it, and I have that tutorial on that, so if you want to see that, have a look through my previous tutorials. So this is the cane that we made last week, and I had done an extra one, and I left it here on the soda can to show you how to take them off. And this is the one that I had the little bubble on that I worked so hard to try to get it off, and actually it's right there. Not sure if you can see it, but it never did come off. But so that's a good reason to do more than what you want. But anyways, you're going to take something fairly dull and just pry under the edge, and they'll pop right off. So they're easy to come off that way. And another thing I do before I sand them is I use paint scrapers. And you can get them as like this kind of triangular sort of shape one, or you can get them a longer bar. And I buy them in the paint department of hardware stores. Most hardware stores will carry them. So I'll take that, and this edge here that's right up against the soda can is very sharp. So I'll take my scraper and I'll scrape that off. Now you can sand it, but this is way faster than sanding. So I love these scrapers, and I sharpen them when they get dull. I just sharpen them up myself and use them all the time. If I have a bead that is not perfectly smooth on the top, I'll use the scraper and scrape over the top of it with that as well before I sand it. And you have to be careful that sometimes it'll put a few scratches in into the bead, and that has to be sanded out. But you just need a light touch and scrape over top. So hopefully with most of these I didn't have to do that, because I spent a lot of time making them perfectly smooth. But that's just a little tip of sometimes what I do. So I'm going to put that away, and we'll get on with the necklace. So here's my 3 discs that I made from last week, and I did some earrings with some scraps, and I also did some end caps. And I have that tutorial on end caps, so if you're interested in that, have a look at that. So first thing I'm going to do is try to determine, because this is a cane that has lots of mica in it, and as you turn it around, it changes. So you want to have a look at it pretty much the way you're going to wear it to see if it's pleasing to your eye. So I've determined that this configuration is the configuration I want, so that when it's worn it's going to look the best. So then I'm going to take a Sharpie, and your biggest one, you don't want your lines in the center. That's going to encourage it to flip, and you'll be working against gravity. So the way I'll arrange them is it'll be slightly above center on the biggest one. And I'll put a little mark, and then I'll put a mark on the smaller bead just directly opposite to that one. So if I put a mark here, then I'll put a little mark there. Now these, they end up being almost directly across from each other. You can put it a little higher. It's still going to hang fine. You don't want to put it too low, so I'm just going to estimate and make a little mark. And that's my guide for drilling my holes. So I'm going to use, you could use a drill, but I'm just going to use a hand drill. And you don't want this hole too close to the edge, but you also don't want it too far in, because it'll require too big a jump ring. So kind of split the difference, and when you're drilling that, watch that you're not going in on an angle and you're trying to go straight across. So it drills pretty easily. It's quite soft. So I'll drill through that way, and I'll come back on the other side and just kind of make that hole a little bit bigger. A bigger hole is easier to put your jump ring through. You get better movement. So I'll drill this one. Then I'll take a minute and I'll drill the others. Okay, all my holes are drilled. So now I'm going to get my jump rings out, and I'm going to use fairly large jump rings for the ends, and they're about 10 millimeters. And then I have 8 millimeter jump rings to connect them with, and then I have little 5 millimeter jump rings just to have them oriented correctly. So you're going to need 2 pairs of chain nose pliers to open these properly. Put one on one side, put one on the other side, and open them up fairly wide. And then I'll open up the 8 millimeter ones as well. And the little 5 millimeter ones that I'm putting in the center, I took a little bit of time and actually kept them nice and closed. So you don't need to open them at all. So the large ones go on the outside of the smaller bead. And they can be closed right away. And then the smaller one, and then I'll put 2 of the closed jump rings on the smaller one, and I'll close this. There's many different ways of doing this. You can actually use large jump rings on all of it and connect them directly to each other. I find you get a nicer movement if you do them this way, and I could have chosen to use the large jump rings here as well, but I really prefer to use as small a one as I can. Just the larger ones will almost give it too much movement, and if it has too much movement, then it can flip around on your neck. So the first 8 millimeter jump ring on the large bead goes in, and it catches those 2 small jump rings that we put on. So I'll close that up now. And that's the connection. So I'll do the other side and the jump ring on the other side, and then we'll talk about the sari ribbon. So that's all the jump rings in place. So I've made a few choices purely for aesthetics here. When I've used 2 of the smaller jump rings here, I could have used 3, I could have used 1. I used 2 because it looks better than 1 to me. And sometimes I'll use a larger one, like on this one. Oh, no, I didn't do it on this one. Okay, sorry. On other ones, sometimes I use a larger one. And one of the benefits of doing that is it makes this a little more rigid. So, and you don't want it too rigid, but just enough rigid so that it doesn't want to flip on you. But anyways, I like this configuration. So let's talk about the sari ribbon. I love sari ribbon. It comes to you like this. I buy mine from on Etsy at a shop called Silk Divine. It's in Montreal, which works out really well for me because I'm in Canada. So it's on a skein, and comes rolled up like that. And then you're going to find one end of it to just untie it. It's little bits of recycled saris that have been sewn together in strips. I'm not going to say that this is the only way to use it. This is just the way I like to use it. So what I do is I don't like where it's sewn. Let's see if I can find a spot where it's sewn here, like right in here. So I cut my pieces from seam to seam, and I find they're usually quite long enough to do a necklace with. If you needed a longer piece, you could certainly keep the seams in place. Sometimes I find they're not sewn really, really well, so that's just kind of the way I feel about that. So I've cut myself a section here, and as you can see, it's full of threads. And so you're going to have to spend a little bit of time and pulling these threads off. So I pull off anything that wants to come off, because it's going to come off one way or another. So, and eventually you'll find that there's very few threads left, and that little bit of loose thread look, that's part of the charm of Sari Ribbon. So that'll take a little bit of time to do. So I got most of it off. There's going to be a few stubborn ones that you might just want to snip, and undoubtedly I'll find more of them as I'm putting the necklace together, but it's not that hard to pull them off even at that point. So anyways, that's the way it comes in the skein, and then eventually you're probably going to have, like me, you're just going to have all these skeins that I just keep them like this. I could take the time and roll them up into a ball, but I haven't done it. But I really love working with this stuff. So I've chosen a couple of colors here that I thought would go well with my necklace, and I'm going to put them together and make sure I have an equal length. One's a little longer than the other, so I'm just going to snip it. And then this will be both my ends. So I'm going to put them together again and cut them one more time. And then that'll be one side and the other side. So you put that through your jump ring. And then again, you've got a whole bunch of choices to make. You could just knot it right here. That's kind of a nice look, kind of bohemian sort of look. I like using beads or metal bits that I buy from Michael's. So I'm going to have a look through my metal bits. Every time they come on sale, I pick up a bunch of them. So I've gone into my stash of big hole beads to put on this necklace. So with this many ribbons, you really need something with a fairly large hole. So I'm going to try this one. I tried this one before, but it was really a tight fit. So I'm going to push as much of that into the hole as I can, and hopefully grab it on the other side. And with any luck, it'll follow me and come through. Okay, we got one more there. these out a little bit. Okay, and then push that down. So this takes the place of knotting it. It makes it nice and secure. And pull on each one of these ribbons to tighten that up. So that's not going anywhere. So I'll do the same on the other side. That's a little bit tricky. It would be a lot easier if you make yourself a bead with a nice big hole. But I like the look of the metal, so those choices are up to you. So I've got both sides in. So that really wasn't very easy. This particular ribbon here is quite thick. Probably would have been better off for me to have just used one piece. If I had used two of this size, it would have been a lot easier. But anyways, we persevered and they're in. I'm going to suggest maybe you just, if yours is thick, don't try two. It was quite an ordeal. So now I'm going to use my end caps and just finish this off. So I've got 20 gauge copper wire here and flush cutters, and I'm going to cut a piece 4 or 5 inches, one for either side. Put a bend on one side, and I've covered this already on the end cap tutorial, so I'll do one side and I won't do the other side. So you can have a look at that other tutorial if you want to see it closer. So then I'll take my ribbon ends and gather them up. And put my wire through, bring this straight up and hold it. So I'm holding the cords and the wire. And I'm going to wrap this as tightly as I can. I'm going to have to pull that a little bit tighter. Just make sure that's good and secure. And then trim your ends. You could choose to take a little needle and thread and sew them together before you do this. Then thread on your end cap. Okay, gotta make that tighter. I should have made my end cap bigger, really. But we'll see if we can get it to fit. There we go, nice and snug. Okay, didn't bring a crystal down, so I'll use a copper ball. And just make my wrap loop that I can attach a jump ring to. tuck that in. So when I tuck these ends in, I don't tuck them right at the tip right away. I tuck them right where they're beginning to bend. If you tuck them right at the tips, they don't swing around nicely. So that's good. You just want to make sure that you can't feel that. So that's basically it. After that, on one side I'm going to put an extender chain, and then on the other side I'm going to put my lobster claw. So that's the 3-disc. Now another thing you can do with Sari ribbon is just quite simply just string it on a pendant. So I've chosen a couple of colors that I thought went well with this pendant, and it's super simple. You can put end caps or you can just wire wrap it. I won't go into the whole details of it. Like I said, it's already on my other video, but that's how I work with Sari ribbon. Wonderful stuff. Come around the other side, grab those 2 pieces and pull it through, and then you know, put your findings on and you're done. So I hope you enjoyed that, and that you enjoy working with Sari ribbon. It's very interesting. Sometimes you get some pieces that are seems more fuzzy than others, even with like a hard threads running out of them. I don't like that kind. This one is softer and silkier. So I'll put a link for the Silk Divine Etsy shop. I'm sure there are lots of other Etsy shops on online. And so like this video if you like, comment, share, it's all good, and I'll see you next time. Bye.